Hi there fellas, today I want to talk to you about degrees and radians. Now when we've been dealing with angles we've always measured them in terms of degrees, but there is another measure and it's the preferred measure in calculus and in other areas of mathematics, and it's called the radian. Now what is a radian? Well, looking at the unit circle here, which has a radius 1, if I was to draw out the same length along the circumference as my radius, I could form an angle like so, and the angle that it subtends is equal to what we call 1 radian. So this is 1 unit long, that's 1 unit long, that arc there, and so the angle that it subtends is what we call 1 radian. Now it so happens that 1 radian is approximately equal to 57.3 degrees. Not a hugely relevant fact. Now, here's the other thing about radians. If I was to go right around my circle, given that my circle is a unit circle, the distance I would have travelled is the circumference of the circle, isn't it? In other words, the distance will equal 2 times pi times r. But because it's a unit circle, we don't need the r. Now, can you see that really 2 pi corresponds to, in angular distance, 360 degrees. That's a rather important fact. And it therefore follows that if 2 pi radians is equal to 360 degrees, then pi radians dividing both sides by 2 is equal to 180 degrees. And that really is quite vital. Boys, now we want to be able to convert between degrees and radians. So if we use the basic fact that pi radians is equal to 180 degrees, what we can do is divide both sides of that little equation by pi, and we find that 1 radian is equal to 180 degrees divided by pi. Okay, and the other important fact is if I want to go the other way, I can divide up here both sides by 180 and get this. 1 degree is equal to pi divided by 180 degrees. Okay, let's convert from degrees to radians. Let's say I want to convert 30 degrees, 45 degrees, 60 and 90 degrees to radians. Well, here's our basic identity here. 1 degree is equal to pi over 180. So really, if I want to know what 30 degrees is in terms of radians, all I've got to do is times both sides by 30, isn't it? So what I get there is this. 30 degrees equals 30 pi over 180 radians, and that of course simplifies to pi on 6 radians. Next example, 45 degrees to radians. So if 1 degree, remember, equals pi on 180, to convert 45 degrees to radians, all I've got to do is times both sides by 45, and we get this sort of thing. Okay. Now what you're going to find is that that simplifies to pi on 4 radians. For 60 degrees to radians. You're getting the idea, boys? Our answer is simply going to be 60 times pi on 180, and that equals pi on 3 radians. Finally, the last one was 90 degrees, and you can probably see that that's just going to equal pi on 2 radians. Okay? Now let's have a look at radians to degrees. Usually I'll expect to see, not always, but usually I'll expect to see pi in a radian measure. So we might have pi on 2. Now we know that's 90 degrees, but the thing is, to convert to degrees, all you need to do is replace the pi by 180, because pi is equal to 180 degrees, you may remember. So what do we get? 90 degrees. What about this one? What about 5 pi on 6? Two ways to read that, 5 pi on 6 as I just did, or 5/6 pi. Well, what we do is we replace the pi with 180 degrees as per usual, like so. And fellas, I don't need a calculator for this, but look, instead of going 5 times 180 divided by 6, which you can do, it's easy to go 180 divided by 6 because you end up with a lower number and then just times it by 5. So 180 divided by 6 is 30. 30 times 5 is 150 degrees. And that's how you convert radians to degrees. Okay, that's it for this clip.